In a distant galaxy, the Zoriths were known for their power and technology. They believed they were the strongest race in the universe. With their advanced ships and weapons, they had conquered many planets. Now, they set their sights on Earth, a small blue planet filled with humans. Commander Vrax, the leader of the Zoroth fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the stars. He felt confident that the humans would be no match for them. "Prepare the fleet for invasion," Vrax ordered. His voice was deep and commanding. "We will show them the might of the Zoreth." No. His second-in-command, Kira, nodded. She was a skilled warrior and shared Vrax's confidence. "They will surrender before we even land," she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "We will take this planet easily." As the Zorath ships traveled through space, they approached Earth. The blue planet looked beautiful from a distance. It was covered in water and land, with green forests and white clouds, but the Zoriths saw it as a prize to be taken. They had studied Earth and its people. They thought the humans were weak and primitive, using old technology and lacking unity. Little did they know how wrong they were. On Earth, a group of people was working on a project to protect their planet. Jack was a former soldier who had fought in several wars. He was strong and skilled in strategy. Mia was a scientist who loved to learn about technology. She was smart and always looking for ways to improve Earth's defenses. Luke was a mechanic who could fix anything. Together, they formed a team to help prepare for any threats that might come from space. Jack gathered his team in a small workshop filled with tools and equipment. "We need to be ready for anything," he said, looking at Mia and Luke there. "Are rumors of strange ships in the sky? We must strengthen our defenses." Mia nodded. "I have been working on a new energy shield that could protect our cities. It could help us against any advanced weapons the aliens might have." Luke chimed in. "I can build some traps and defenses. We need to use our resources wisely. If they attack, we must be ready to fight back." Jack smiled at his friends. "Let's get to work. We don't know what we are up against, but we will be prepared." As the team started their preparations, the Zorith fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. The alien ships were massive and dark, casting shadows over the cities below. Thousands of Zorith soldiers were ready for battle, eager to prove their strength. Commander Vrax watched from his ship, feeling a sense of excitement and pride. "Activate our weapons," he commanded. "Let's show them what we can do." The Zorath ships fired powerful beams of energy at the ground, targeting the major cities. The explosions rocked the Earth, causing panic and chaos. People ran through the streets, screaming in fear. They had never seen anything like this before. The skies darkened with smoke as buildings crumbled under the alien attack. Jack, Mia, and Luke were in their workshop when the first explosion hit. The ground shook, and the lights flickered. Jack quickly grabbed a flashlight. "We need to get outside and see what is happening," he shouted. They rushed out into the street where they saw destruction all around them. People were screaming, and cars were overturned. Jack's heart raced as he took in the chaos. "We have to help," he yelled. Mia looked at the destruction and then back at Jack. "How can we help? We are not soldiers. We don't have weapons." Jack thought for a moment, then said, "We may not be soldiers, but we can fight back. We have to gather people and come up with a plan. We need to defend our home." Luke nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "I can set up some traps. If we can slow them down, we can give our people a chance to escape." With a new sense of purpose, the three friends began to rally the people around them. Jack spoke, loudly, trying to inspire those who were scared. "Listen, you're not alone. We can fight back against these aliens. We need to work together to protect our homes and our families." Some people looked at him with doubt, but others began to nod. They could see the fire in Jack's eyes and felt a spark of hope. The group quickly grew as more people joined them. Ready to fight for their planet, Mia began to organize everyone, dividing them into groups. "We need to gather supplies and weapons. Look for anything that can help us defend ourselves. We can use old tools, anything we have." As the group scattered to gather resources, Jack and Luke worked on setting up defenses. Luke used his skills. To build traps in the streets, using metal scraps and old machinery to create barriers, Jack helped him. Keeping an eye on the sky for any signs of the Zorath ships continued to rain destruction down on the city. Commander Vrax watched as the humans tried to organize themselves. He laughed, thinking they were foolish to resist. "They will be crushed," he said, his voice filled with arrogance. "They have no chance against us." But as the fighting continued, the Zorath began to notice something strange. The humans were not giving up easily. They fought back with makeshift weapons, using whatever they could find. They were resourceful and determined. In one area of the city, a group of humans, led by Jack, threw rocks and used homemade explosives to attack a Zorath soldier. The alien was caught off guard and stumbled backwards, surprised by the humans' bravery. This small victory inspired others. More humans began to fight back, realizing that they could stand up against their attackers. As the sun began to set, the streets were filled with smoke and noise. The sounds of explosions and screams echoed throughout the city. Jack, Mia, and Luke regrouped, their hearts racing from the chaos around them. They could see that their efforts were making a difference. "We are holding them back," Jack shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "We can do this," Mia smiled, feeling a surge of hope. "We need to keep fighting. If we work together, we can push them back and defend our planet." Luke nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "Have to keep creating traps. The more we slow them down, the better chance we have." As they prepared to continue the fight, the Zorath watched in shock. Commander Vrax could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were not the weak beings he expected. They were fighting back with everything they had. The Zorath gasped in disbelief. They had underestimated the humans, thinking they would surrender easily. Instead, they were witnessing something extraordinary. The humans were fighting with a fierce spirit that the Zorath had never encountered before. As the night wore on, the battle raged on. The Zorath were determined to conquer Earth, but the humans were equally determined to defend their home. The clash between the two races was just beginning, and neither side knew what the future would hold. The sun rose over the city, casting a pale light on the destruction left by the Zorath invasion. Smoke still curled from the ruins of buildings, and the air was thick with the smell of burning debris. Jack, Mia, and Luke stood together, surveying the damage. They could see the fear in the eyes of the people around them, but they also saw determination. Jack clenched his fists. "We cannot let them win. We need to regroup and come up with a better plan. We need to take the fight to them." Nodded, looking at the makeshift weapons they had gathered. "We must find a way to disable their ships. If we can do that, we can stop their attacks. We need to find a weakness." Luke scratched his head, thinking hard. What if we could use their technology against them? We've seen how they attack. If we can learn how their ships work, we might be able to create something that can destroy them. As they spoke, a group of people approached them. Among them was a local engineer named Sam. He had experience working with technology and was eager to help. "I heard you talking about the ships. I might have an idea," he said, catching his breath. "There is an old military base not far from here. It has tools and equipment we could use. If we can find a way to get there, we might be able to create a weapon strong enough to take down one of their ships." Jack's eyes lit up with hope. "It's a great idea, Sam. We need to get to that base. But it will be dangerous. The Zorath are everywhere." Mia stepped forward. "We can use the back alleys to avoid their patrols. If we stay quiet and move carefully, we can reach the base without being seen." With a plan in place, Jack rallied the group. "Listen up, everyone. We are going to the old military base. We will gather tools and equipment to fight back. Stay close and keep quiet. We can do this together." The group nodded, feeling a sense of purpose. They moved through the streets, sticking to the shadows and avoiding the open areas where Zorath soldiers patrolled. As they made their way to the military base, they saw the destruction the Zorath had caused. Buildings were in ruins, and the streets were littered with debris. But they also saw signs of hope. People were banding together, helping each other. In the midst of chaos, when they finally reached the military base, they found the gates partially open. It looked deserted, but they knew it was risky to enter. Jack led the way, careful to stay low. "We need to be quick," he whispered. "Let's find what we can and get out." Inside, the base was dark and quiet. Dust covered the floor, and old equipment lay abandoned. Mia used her flashlight to look around, her heart racing with excitement. "There has to be something useful here," she said. They split up to search the different rooms. Jack and Luke headed to the armory, where they hoped to find weapons. Mia went to the tech room, searching for anything that could help them understand the Zoreth technology. In the armory, Jack and Luke found old rifles and grenades. "These might be useful," Jack said, loading the weapons. They also found some explosives that could work against the Zoroth ships. Luke grinned as he examined a box filled with gadgets. "We can use these to create traps and defenses," he said. Meanwhile, in the tech room, Mia was looking through old computers and equipment. She found a dusty monitor that flickered to life. "Hey, come on," she urged, tapping the keyboard. After a few moments, the screen showed schematics of Zoroth ships. Mia's eyes widened. "I think I found something. These diagrams might help us understand how their ships work." Jack and Luke rushed to her side, peering at the screen. "This is incredible," Jack exclaimed. "If we can use this information to create a weapon, we might stand a chance." Suddenly, they heard a loud noise outside. The sound of Zoroth soldiers approaching sent chills down their spines. "We need to hurry," Luke said, looking nervously at the door. Mia quickly copied the schematics onto a flash drive. "Got it. Let's get out of here before they find us." As they turned to leave, they heard voices outside. Zoroth soldiers were talking, their language harsh and unfamiliar. The humans felt their hearts race. They needed to escape before it was too late. They moved quietly through the dark corridors, staying low to avoid being seen. Jack led the way, his instincts sharp. They could hear the footsteps of the Zoroth growing closer, echoing in the silence. The tension was thick as they crept toward the exit. Just as they reached the door, it swung open, and a Zoroth soldier stepped inside. The alien's eyes widened in surprise when he saw the humans. Without thinking, Jack lunged forward and tackled the soldier to the ground. The others quickly joined in, helping to subdue the alien before he could call for help. "Quick, take his weapon," Mia said, grabbing the rifle from the fallen soldier. They needed every advantage they could get, with the Zoroth soldier tied up. They slipped out of the base and into the street. The sun was setting, and shadows began to stretch across the ground. They could see Zoroth ships flying overhead, scanning the area. The humans quickly ducked into an alley, their hearts pounding. "What now?" Luke asked, breathing heavily. "They will be looking for us," Jack thought for a moment. "We need to find a safe place to plan our next move. If we stay out of sight, we can figure out how to use what we found at the base." They moved through the back streets, avoiding the main roads where Zoroth soldiers patrolled. They found a small, abandoned building that looked safe. Inside, they gathered around a table to discuss their next steps. Mia plugged in the flash drive to her laptop. "Let's see what we can do with this information," she said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. As the schematics loaded, they studied the designs of the Zoroth ships. Jack pointed to a weak spot on the screen. "If we can create a device that targets this area, we might be able to disable one of their ships." Luke nodded, excitement growing. "We can use the explosives we found at the base. If we can get close enough to one of their ships, we can plant it right where it will do the most damage." Mia looked at both of them, her eyes shining. "Could work, but we need a good plan to execute it. We have to be quick and careful." As they discussed the details, they heard the distant sounds of Zoroth soldiers searching the area. The tension in the room was palpable. They knew time was running out. Jack put his hand on the table, steadying himself. "We can do this. We have to keep fighting. The Zoroth think we are weak, but they are about to learn how strong we really are." With their plan set, the group felt a renewed sense of hope. They were ready to take the fight to the Zoreth and show them that humanity would not back down. The humans gathered their supplies, preparing for the dangerous mission ahead. They were no longer just a group of scared civilians. They had become warriors, ready to defend their planet against the alien threat. As they stepped out into the night, the stars shone brightly above them. They were determined to fight back, and they would not let the Zoroth take their home without a fight. The night was quiet, but the tension in the air was thick. Jack, Mia, Luke, and their small group of defenders were ready for the next step in their fight against the Zoroth. They had gathered supplies and created a plan to attack one of the Zorath ships. The humans knew this would be dangerous, but they felt a strong sense of purpose. They were fighting for their homes and families. Jack looked at the group gathered around him. "Tonight is the night we take the fight to them. We'll strike at their ship and show them that we will not back down. Have a plan, and we must. Stick to it." Mia nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "I have studied the schematics we found at the military base. We can use the explosives to hit the weak spot on their ship. If we can disable it, we can stop their attacks." Luke added, "We need to be quick. The Zoroth are patrolling the area. If we can sneak up on them, we have a chance." With their plans set, the group moved out into the night. They stayed close to the shadows, avoiding the main streets where Zorath soldiers roamed. The streets were eerily quiet, and the distant sound of Zorath ships flying overhead reminded them of the danger they faced. As they approached the location of the Zorath ship, you could see the massive metal structure looming in the darkness. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a symbol of the alien power that threatened their world. The ship was guarded by several Zoroth soldiers. Standing watch with their weapons ready, Jack led the group to a nearby alley where they could observe the ship without being seen. "We need to find a way to distract them," he whispered. "If we can create a diversion, we can slip past their guards." Mia looked around and spotted a pile of old crates nearby. "Some noise near those crates? It might draw their attention away from the ship." Luke grinned. "That's a great idea. I can rig something up to make a loud noise. Just give me a moment." As Luke worked quickly to create a makeshift distraction, Jack and Mia kept watch. They could see the Zoroth soldiers chatting among themselves, their eyes scanning the area. The humans felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was their chance to fight back. Once Luke finished his device, he gave Jack a nod. "It's ready, let's do this." Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He knew that the success of their mission depended on their teamwork and courage. "On my count, 3, 2, 1, go!" Luke activated the device, and it let out a loud bang, followed by a series of clattering noises. The sound echoed through the night, startling everyone in the area. The Zoroth soldiers turned their heads, looking in the direction of the noise. "Now," Jack shouted, and they sprinted toward the ship, staying low to avoid being seen. They quickly slipped past the distracted guards and reached the base of the Zoroth ship. Once they were under the ship, Mia pulled out the explosives they had gathered. "We need to place these carefully," she said, her hands shaking with excitement and fear. "If we can get them to the weak spot, it will do the most damage." Jack nodded, keeping an eye out for any approaching Zoroth. "We have to be quick. Let's split up and cover more ground." As they worked, Luke placed explosives at key points, while Mia focused on the weak spot they had identified from the schematics. The tension was high as they moved quickly but carefully. They knew that if they were caught, their mission would fail. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. Jack's heart raced, and he signaled for everyone to freeze. They hid behind a large metal structure, holding their breath. A pair of Zoroth soldiers walked by, their voices rough and harsh. The humans could see the fearsome weapons strapped to their sides, and they knew they had to stay hidden. After the soldiers passed, Jack whispered, "We need to hurry. We don't have much time." They quickly resumed their task, Mia placing the last of the explosives. "It's done. We're ready," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's get out of here," Jack urged. They started to back away, staying low and silent. As they moved, they could hear the distant sounds of Zoroth ships flying. Overhead, their engines roaring like thunder. Just as they reached the edge of the ship, an alarm began to blare. Zoroth had discovered the distraction was a ruse. "They know we're here." Luke shouted, panic in his voice. "Run!" yelled. They sprinted away from the ship, their hearts pounding as they heard the sounds of Zoroth soldiers behind them. The adrenaline pushed them forward, and they dashed through the alleys, desperately trying to escape. They could hear the Zoroth calling to each other, their voices echoing in the night. The soldiers were in pursuit, determined to catch the humans, who dared to attack them. Jack led the way, his instincts guiding him through the maze of streets. Finally, they reached a dead-end alley. Jack skidded to a stop, his mind racing. "We can't go back. We need to find a way to hide." Mia pointed to a nearby doorway. "In there," she urged. They rushed inside, closing the door behind them. The small room was dark and cramped, but it provided them with shelter. They could hear the Zoroth soldiers searching the area outside. "Stay quiet," Jack whispered, pressing his back against the wall. They held their breath, listening as the Zoroth soldiers passed by, their voices growing fainter. After a few tense moments, the sounds of the soldiers faded away. Jack let out a sigh of relief. "I think we're safe for now," he said, glancing around the dark room. Mia turned to Jack, her face filled with concern. "What do we do now? Can't just sit here." Jack took a deep breath, trying to think. "Clearly, we need to get back to our group and warn them. The Zoroth will be looking for us. We still have to detonate the explosives." Luke's eyes were wide. "But how will we get back out there?" "It's too dangerous." Jack thought for a moment. "We'll have to wait for the right moment. If we can sneak back out when the Zoroth are distracted, we can make it back to our people. We cannot let their fear stop us from fighting." They waited. They took a moment to catch their breath. The darkness of the room felt heavy, but the fire in their hearts burned bright. They were ready to fight for their planet, no matter the cost. After what felt like an eternity, they heard the sounds of Zoroth soldiers moving away from the area. Jack slowly opened the door and peeked outside. The coast was clear. "Now's our chance," he whispered. They slipped out of the room and back into the shadows. Streets were quieter now, but they knew the danger was far from over. They quickly made their way back to where they last saw their group, moving with purpose and determination. As they approached, they could see familiar faces waiting anxiously. "You made it," Mia's friend Clara exclaimed, relief washing over her. Jack wasted no time. "We have to detonate the explosives. The Zoroth are still out there, and they will come looking for us." With the group gathered, they hurried to the location where the explosives were set. Tension in the air was palpable as they moved. Quickly knowing that time was running out, as they reached the ship, Jack looked at Mia. "Are you ready?" Mia took a deep breath. "Let's do this." With a determined nod, they activated the detonator, and the ground shook beneath them. The Zoroth ship erupted in a massive explosion, sending debris flying into the air. "Gassed!" The humans watched in awe. As the Zoroth forces scrambled in confusion, their confident demeanor shattered. They had struck a blow against their oppressors. And in that moment, they knew they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their freedom. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the humans felt a surge of hope. They had shown the Zoroth that humanity would not be easily defeated. With their spirits lifted, they prepared for the battles still to come. The explosion lit up the night sky, illuminating the area around the destroyed Zoroth ship. Jack, Mia, Luke, and their group stood in awe, watching as the massive structure crumbled. The sound of the blast echoed through the streets, and the ground shook beneath their feet. This was a victory, a sign that they could fight back against the Zora. As the dust settled, they felt a mix of fear and excitement. The Zoroth were no longer invincible. They could be defeated. But Jack knew this was just the beginning. "We need to move quickly," he said, his voice steady. "This explosion will draw attention. We have to find a safe place to regroup and plan our next move." The group nodded, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They turned and headed away from the wreckage, moving through the streets that were still filled with smoke and debris. The sounds of Zoroth soldiers shouting could be heard in the distance. They knew the aliens would be searching for them. As they moved, Mia glanced back at the wreckage. "Do you think we did enough damage?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Jack nodded, trying to reassure her. "It was a good hit, but we need to keep striking them where it hurts. If we can keep them off balance, we can push them back." They continued through the city, using the back alleys to avoid being seen. The The faint sounds of Zorath ships still flew overhead, scanning the area for signs of life. Jack led the group to an old warehouse that seemed abandoned. "This looks like a good place to hide for now," he said. "We can catch our breath and come up with a plan." Inside, the warehouse was dark and dusty. Old crates and boxes were piled high around them. Jack turned on his flashlight and scanned. "The area, we need to make sure it's safe before we settle in," he said. Mia stepped forward, looking around. "I'll check the back entrance," she said, moving quietly. Luke and Jack stayed close, keeping watch for any signs of danger. After a few moments, Mia returned, a relieved look on her face. "The back is clear. We can stay here for a bit." The group settled into the warehouse, their hearts still racing. From the excitement of the explosion, they gathered around a small table, where Jack began to outline their next steps. "We have shown the Zoroth that we will fight back. Now we need to find a way to push them out of our cities completely." Luke nodded, his eyes bright with determination. "We should look for weaknesses in their defenses. If we can find a way to disrupt their communications, we can confuse them and make it harder for them to coordinate their attacks," Mia added. "We can also gather more people to join our cause. The more of us there are, the stronger we will be." Jack agreed. "Let's split up into teams. Some of us can search for more allies, while others can look for information on Zoroth communications. We need to act fast before they regroup." With their plans set, the group divided into teams. Jack and Mia would go to find more allies, while Luke would stay behind to search for information on Zoroth technology. They knew time was of the essence, and they had to move quickly. As Jack and Mia left the warehouse, they felt a sense of urgency. The streets were still dangerous, but they were determined to find more people willing to fight. They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows and avoiding the main roads. As they walked, they came across a small group of people hiding in an alley. Jack recognized some of them from their neighborhood. "Are you all okay?" he asked, concerned. Filling his voice, one of the men, a neighbor named Thomas, looked up with hope in his eyes. "We saw the explosion. We heard you were fighting back against the Zoroth. We want to help." Mia stepped forward, her heart racing. "We need more people like you. We are planning to disrupt the Zoroth's communication system, if we can. Confuse them. It will give us an advantage." Thomas nodded vigorously. "We're with you. What do you need us to do?" Jack smiled, feeling a sense of relief. "We need to gather as many people as we can. The more of us there are, the stronger we will be. Let's head back to the warehouse and meet up with the others." As they made their way back, Jack felt a surge of hope. They were not alone in this fight. More people were willing to stand up against the Zoroth. When they reached the warehouse, they found Luke still searching for information. "Did you find anything?" Jack asked, anxious to hear the news. Luke looked up, excitement in his eyes. "Yes, I managed to get access to some old communication equipment. If we can use it to tap into their channels, we might be able to hear their plans and disrupt their signals." Mia's eyes widened. "That's amazing. If we can listen in, we can learn their weaknesses." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of urgency. "Let's get to work. We need to set this up as quickly as possible." The group gathered around the equipment, working together to set it up. Jack and Mia helped Luke connect the wires and set the dials. They worked quickly, knowing that time was running out. The Zoroth would not stay disoriented for long. When they finally finished, Luke pressed a button and the equipment crackled to life. "I'm tuning into their frequency," he said, his fingers moving swiftly. "Let's see if we can hear anything." As they listened, the static began to clear. They could hear the voices of Zoroth soldiers speaking in their harsh language. Jack strained to listen, trying to pick out words he could understand. Suddenly, a voice came through clearly. "We must regroup. The humans are becoming a problem. We cannot allow them to disrupt our plans." Jack exchanged glances with Mia and Luke, excitement filling the room. "They're talking about us. This is our chance to learn their plans." Luke adjusted the dials, trying to catch more of the conversation. "We need to find their main command center. If we can gather more information, we can plan our next attack." As they continued to listen, They learned that the Zoroth were planning a large-scale attack on the remaining human strongholds. They were ready to crush the resistance once and for all. Jack felt a surge of determination. We can't let that happen. We have to act fast. Mia nodded, her face serious. We need to gather everyone and prepare for our next move. We can use this information to our advantage. Let's regroup and prepare for our counterattack. We will show the Zoroth that we will not be defeated. With renewed energy, they gathered their supplies and prepared to move. They knew that the fight was far from over, but they were ready. To take on the challenge, they were no longer just a group of scared civilians. They had become a force to be reckoned with. As they stepped out into the night, the stars shone brightly above them. They were determined to fight for their homes, their families, and their planet. The Zoroth had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. With courage in their hearts and hope in their minds, Jack, Mia, Luke, and their growing group of defenders set out to confront the Zoroth once and for all. They were ready to show the universe that humanity would stand and fight, no matter the odds. The night was dark, but the determination in Jack, Mia, Luke, and their group of defenders shone brightly. They had gathered information about the Zoroth's plans, and now it was time to act. The stakes were high, and they knew they had to strike. Before the Zoroth launched their next attack, Jack stood before the group, his voice steady. We have learned that the Zoroth are planning a large attack on our remaining strongholds. We cannot let that happen. We need to hit them hard and disrupt their plans. Mia stepped forward, her eyes filled with fire. We have the element of surprise on our side. The Zoroth think they can crush us easily, but they are about to learn how strong we really are. Luke nodded, looking at the faces of their friends. We need to coordinate our attack. If we can catch them off guard, we can do serious damage. The group discussed their options, brainstorming ideas for their counterattack. They decided to target the Zoroth command center, where they could disrupt the communication and supply lines. If they could take out the command center, it would confuse the Zoroth and give the humans a chance to fight back. We'll split into teams, Jack said. One team will create a distraction, while the other team moves in to take out the command center. We need to be quick and efficient. Mia volunteered to lead the team that would create the distraction. We will set off explosives near the outer perimeter. That should draw their attention away from the command center, she said. Luke would lead the second team, the one heading for the command center. We'll move in quickly, using the information we gathered to navigate through their defenses, he said, his voice filled with confidence. With their plans set, the group prepared for the fight ahead. They gathered weapons, explosives, and supplies ready to take on the Zoroth. As they stepped out into the night, the air was thick with anticipation. They were ready to fight for their planet. The teams moved separately, each with their own mission. Mia's team approached the outer perimeter of the Zoroth command center. They could see the imposing structure looming in the distance, guarded by Zoroth soldiers. The tension in the air was palpable as they crept closer. Stay low and quiet, Mia whispered. We need to time this just right. They reached a safe spot behind some rubble, hiding from the Zoroth guards. Mia glanced at her team, her heart racing. On my count, we set off the explosives. 1, 2, 3. The explosives detonated with a loud bang, sending shockwaves through the night. The ground shook, and the Zoroth soldiers immediately turned in the direction of the noise. Alarms blared, and chaos erupted as the Zoroth scrambled to respond. Now, Mia yelled, and her team rushed toward the command center, taking advantage of the distraction. They moved quickly, staying low, and dodging the confused Zoroth soldiers. Meanwhile, Luke's team approached the command center from the opposite side. They moved swiftly, using the chaos created by Mia's team to slip inside. Luke led the way, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. They had a chance to turn the tide of the battle. Inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit hallway filled with Zoroth technology. Luke pointed to a door at the end of the hall. That must be it. Command room is just beyond that door. As they reached the door, they heard voices inside. Zoroth soldiers were discussing their plans, unaware of the humans lurking just outside. Luke motioned for everyone to be quiet as they prepared to burst in. On 3, he whispered. 1, 2, 3. They pushed the door open and charged into the room. The Zorath soldiers inside looked shocked as the humans stormed in. Jack took the lead, his weapon raised. "Get down. This is our command center now." The Zorath soldiers scrambled to grab their weapons, but the humans were faster. A fierce battle erupted in the command room. Jack and Luke fought with everything they had, using their training and determination to overpower the Zorath. Mia's team, still outside, continued to create chaos. They set off more explosives, blowing up Zorath equipment and causing confusion. Among the soldiers, the Zorath were disoriented, and the humans were gaining ground. Back inside the command room, Jack and Luke fought bravely. They worked together, covering each other as they took down Zorath soldiers one by one. 8. Jack spotted a control panel on the wall. "If I can get to that panel, I can disrupt their communications," he shouted. "Go," Luke yelled, providing cover fire as Jack dashed toward the control panel. He reached it and began to work quickly, pressing buttons and flipping switches. The control panel lit up, and Jack's heart raced. I think I'm in." As he hacked into the system, he could hear the Zorath soldiers outside panicking. "What is going on?" "You're being attacked," one of them shouted. Jack smiled to himself. This was the moment they had been waiting for. He accessed the communication channels and began to send false messages to the Zorath troops. "All Zorath units, retreat," he commanded through the system. "The humans are overwhelming us." Outside, Mia and her team heard the message echoing. "Through the Zorath communication system, they're retreating," one of the soldiers shouted. "We need to regroup." This news sent a wave of hope through the humans. They pushed forward, taking advantage of the Zorath's confusion. The aliens were not prepared for such an unexpected turn of events. Back in the command room, Jack continued to disrupt the Zorath's systems. He could see the panic growing among the Zorath soldiers. "We need to finish this," he said, determination in his voice. "Let's take down their main power source." Luke nodded. "I'll cover you. Let's end this." They moved together toward the power source, working as a team. Jack set explosives while Luke kept watch, ready to defend against any incoming Zorath. When the explosives were in place, Jack pressed the detonator. The explosion rocked the command center, causing the walls to tremble. The power flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. The Zorath soldiers panicked, their controls slipping away. "Now's our chance," Luke shouted. "Let's get out of here." They rushed back through the command center, making their way toward the exit. The confusion among the Zorath soldiers made it easier for them to escape. They burst out into the night air, where Mia's team was waiting. "We did it," Mia yelled, her face lit with excitement. "The Zorath are in chaos." Jock took a moment to catch his breath, feeling a mix of exhilaration and exhaustion. "We need to keep pushing. We can't let them regroup." The humans rallied together, ready to fight for their freedom. They moved through the streets, inspiring others to join them. Word of their victory spread quickly, and more people came together to stand against the Zora. As they approached the center of the city, they could see Zorath's ships in the sky, but they were now disorganized and confused. The humans had struck a blow that they would not forget. "Let's show them what humanity is capable of," Jack shouted, leading the charge. With renewed strength, the humans fought back, taking the fight to the Zorath with pride and bravery. They had proven that they were not weak, but strong and united. The Zorath had underestimated them. Now they were facing the consequences. With each victory, the humans felt a surge of hope. They were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for their freedom and their future. Together, they stood strong, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the city, Jack, Mia, Luke, and their friends knew they had changed the course of the battle. They were no longer just a group of survivors. They had become a force that would not be easily defeated. They fought on. Knowing that their fight was for their homes, their families, and their planet, the Zorath had come to conquer, but they had awakened the spirit of humanity. And in that moment the aliens gasped in fear, realizing that the humans were not just fighting back, they were winning.